we heard now about City of Vienna and Vienna City smart city strategy, and we are realizing, or we are witnessing the fact that we are in global pandemics. And you said that in order to pull this through, in order to work on this, we have to, or you have to involve many stakeholders. How do you succeed that? Where is the challenge in involving people in this process, especially during COVID-19 crisis?
I tried very compact. On the one hand, a COVID crisis is a disaster, and it is also a disaster for involving the people. One hand, but on the other hand, it's also a field of innovation, and we have seen that especially with digital formats, we can involve a lot more people than before. So to make it very briefly, it's not only a problem, it's also a chance, because till now we always arranged physical meetings, and there we had, I don't know, 20 people, 30 people. Now we are organizing digital events and we have 200 people in the session. So it's not only a problem. And second answer, but this doesn't depend to the pandemic. For us, the involving of the stakeholders is a lot more than only involving the citizens in the surrounding fields.
Okay, then thank you so much. We have two interesting questions here. And I'll start with the second one. First of all, our participants are thanking you for your input, and they find it really interesting. The question is here, how the needs of social disadvantaged people or groups and their voices get integrated within the smart city strategy?
This is a very good question. Thank you very much. This is a hard job, but we are doing this. On the one hand, we are integrating special experts in our creating process of the strategy, experts from the social sector, and second part is we are doing a lot of pilot projects which try to integrate these people in I would say living lab situations. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Now we have an interesting one. Is it realistic to drive down greenhouse gas emission to the absolute zero by 2050, or was that net zero?
It's net zero. Yes, but I would say yes. It's something like a bring a man to the moon challenge. We have to do it. We have to do it. And I think we have to stop talking. We have to start acting, because we are always talking. Is this optimal for this group? Is this optimal for those people? I would say it's absolutely clear for the further generations. It will be an absolutely disaster. So we have to do it. We have to start. We have to turn on our brain. And for me, it's clear, and the time is too short, maybe on an afternoon. It will be, and we are clever enough to organize it, it will be a better city than before. Yes, we have to do it. And I think it can be a very fruitful way to go.
Thank you so much, Mr. Medreiter. This is, I mean, what I like to hear from people who are actually the one making decisions and taking actions is that they say, we need to start doing, and we are doing. And what I see from you is actually an honest approach to this. So thank you very much for this. And I think that our participants will appreciate this. We're going to talk a lot about Vienna during these 2 days, and we're going to hear also from you. Thank you once again for joining here, and we see each other very soon. And
all the best.
Thanks a lot. We continue with our keynotes. This time we continue with Mr. Lukas Lengauer, who is here with us on the screen. Mr. Lengauer, welcome. We are happy to have you here with us. Mr. Lengauer is from Vienna Business Agency. As I said, they're supporting us in organizing this conference. They're sharing the vision with us. They are willing to participate in solving the challenges with us and the other stakeholders there you will be seeing here throughout these 2 days. Mr. Lengauer is going to talk with us about circular economy as a concept within 2030 Vienna strategy. Mr. Lengauer, welcome. Thank you. You have your 15 minutes. And then when you're finished, I'm going to share the questions with you. Once again, welcome, and the floor is yours.
Hello, welcome. I tried to share my presentation. I hope it works.
Yeah, we are warming up. It should work out sometimes. It does. Thank you so much.
The presentation mode?
Yeah.
Yeah, then perfect. Yeah, good morning, everybody. My name is Lukas Lengauer, and I am the head of the Sustainable Technologies team at the Vienna Business Agency. The Vienna Business Agency is a public agency funded by the City of Vienna, and we offer a variety of services for companies in Vienna. To name but a few, we provide funding for R&D and innovation projects. We provide consultancy and services for SMEs and startup companies, and we develop commercial real estate. Today, I want to talk about the sectors that are most relevant for the audience of today. That's life sciences, part of life sciences, and sustainable technologies, and the way that these topics are mentioned or dealt with in the economic development strategy. I will talk briefly about this strategy, which in line with the Smart City Framework strategy emphasizes innovation and sustainability very strongly. Then I'll show you some projects, some highlights that help us achieve the mission of the strategy, and I will show and try to show that the strategy Vienna 2030 is not just a document, but has already taken root in the real world. And finally, I'd like to describe the offer, Vienna's offer for innovative companies and students or scholars that plan to establish a company here. And I will conclude with the invitation to two upcoming events that probably show in much more detail what Vienna is doing than I can do in the next couple of minutes. So just some background on the sectors we're talking about. Vienna has gained recognition as a capital for sustainable technologies in the last couple of years. If we look at life sciences first, which consists of like red life sciences, which is the health sector or a part of the health sector, and green and gray biotech, which refers to plant-based solutions and industrial processes, we have about 500 dedicated life science companies and more than 23,000 employees that develop and produce their products here. If we look at sustainable solutions more broadly, it's even much bigger. More than 9,000 companies develop sustainable solutions and generate about like 16% of total sales. Sustainability is a big political topic, as Mr. Madreiter has already mentioned, and this is reflected by a number of city rankings. Vienna has been ranked the most livable city repeatedly, and Vienna knows, or the authorities know, that we have to build on this strength and develop further and have strategic foundations for an even more sustainable future. The Smart City Framework strategy in this regard is for sure the most important long-term foundation for Vienna's transformation into an even more sustainable urban space. But also the economic development strategy takes this up, and life sciences, sustainable technologies, climate change are very important pillars of this strategy. So just a few words about the strategy. Vienna 2030, economy and innovation. This strategy defines 6 strategic areas of leadership in which Vienna is particularly strong and wants to develop even further. These are the 6 triangles you see on this slide. It's Vienna as a metropolis of health, digitalization Vienna style, which refers to digital humanism, a humanistic approach towards digitalization. Vienna as a metropolis of culture and creativity, which is probably most well known already. But then also Vienna as a city of international encounter. Vienna hosts a number of international organizations like the UN and the OSCE, and a number of headquarters of international companies. And then smart production and smart solutions for life in the 21st century city. These are, the latter two are especially focusing on sustainable technologies and circular economy approaches. And then we have also some areas of strategic action. You can find them in the center circle. And if you look at them, you see Vienna applies some sort of a triple helix approach that tries to link research, education, and universities to the business sector and the public sector, emphasizing the strong role of cooperation between these two actors. And in this regard, it's very important to have the city of Vienna as a very good partner for innovation and sustainability. It's very important, as Mr. Madreiter has already said, that technological innovation has to go hand in hand with social innovation and smart regulation, with a continuous adaptation of the governance structure that enables innovation and progress. So just to sum up, smart and sustainable solutions are key in this strategy. Products and services to tackle climate change are very important. Climate change adaptation is mentioned as a very important aspect. And of course, sustainability, sustainable mobility is a very important issue. And everything has to do with participation and inclusion of the people of the city, the inhabitants. So now to some concrete highlights of the strategy. The first that I want to mention is a research center called Bioenergy and Sustainable Technologies, BEST. It's an applied research center that tries to close the gap between academic research and industrial technology development. It focuses on biomass to energy and biomass to goods conversion. So it basically uses organic waste material to produce liquid and gaseous products and bioenergy, basically. It cooperates with more than 240 partners in all over the world. And Wien Energie, the Vienna utility company, is one of the most important partners. And right now, BEST invests more than 5 million euros and builds a waste to value demonstrator plant in Vienna, which will produce biogas out of organic waste and biofuels. The next initiative is the Do Tank Circular Cities. It's an initiative by the City of Vienna that wants to further develop and promote circular economy approaches in the city, with a strong focus on the built environment and the construction sector. The main guiding principles of the Do Tank are reduce, reuse, and recycle. And it's really a Do Tank. It's about getting things done. It's not yet another think tank. It was established in August 2020 and integrates stakeholders from the city administration, from research, from industry, and from SMEs. And it wants to draw up a roadmap for sustainable Vienna. It wants to make Vienna a test bed for product and service innovations in the field of circular economy. And the first flagship initiative deals with sustainable solutions for the renovation of old buildings from the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century, the so-called Gründerzeit buildings, which made up a huge part of the built environment. And the Do Tank understands itself as a facilitator for demonstration projects. Another research center in this field is Artsi, Austrian Center of Industrial Biotechnology. It's also a translational center between basic research and technological development in industry. It comprises more than 200 scientific and industrial partners and works on environmentally friendly and economically viable processes for the biotechnological, pharmaceutical, and chemical industries. These are industries with a huge ecological footprint, and it's very important to look at sustainability in the processes of these industries. And my last example comes from the education sector. It's the study course on packaging technology and sustainability, which is offered at the University of Applied Sciences FH campus. The universities of applied sciences are important actors for the city of Vienna, as they really train talent for the industry that really make things happen in the industry. It's a degree program with a technical focus and business elements, and it was developed together with the companies and the Austrian Chamber of Commerce. So what can we offer young companies or young students and scholars that want to found a company? Basically, we provide funding, as I already mentioned, for research centers, for R&D projects, for innovation projects. That's what Vienna Business Agency does. The City of Vienna also funds innovative master programs at research organizations and universities. Equally important is services. We provide services for companies to navigate through the funding landscape. Not only the Viennese funding landscape, but also federal programs and European programs. We try to bring together different technological domains and different partners. We try to match the business sector with research organizations and the City of Vienna, and try to initiate cross-industry cooperation with our co-creation labs and other formats. Vienna also hosts a high-tech incubator, which especially focuses on university spin-offs. We have a startup academy, which supports companies in the founding phase. That's also a very inclusive approach, as we have courses in a broad variety of languages. More than 18 languages are offered. And we try to attract talent from abroad, talent to and offer networking opportunities and consultancy for expats here. Finally, we provide expertise. We publish technology reports. Here I just mentioned the ones that are particularly relevant for sustainable technologies. We have a report on rainwater management in the city, one on energy innovations, green buildings, urban food, urban mobility, ambient assisted living, and city logistics, and there are many more to come. These reports highlight international technology trends and show a very concise and complete picture of the Viennese ecosystem in the respective fields. So you find all the important companies, all the important research organizations, and the public institutions that are relevant in a particular field in these technology reports. So just to conclude, two invitations, one to the Vienna Up, that's our big startup festival, which will take place from the 27th of April to the 12th of May. It comprises more than 80 citywide events on different topics, from digital innovation, cultural innovation, but also sustainability. Just check out the website and find the programs that are interesting for you. And one of the events within Vienna Up could be particularly relevant. It's the Smart City Summit that will be organized by my team. It will take place on the 4th of May, and it's an event for city experts, startups, SMEs, and academics, and will touch upon different aspects of smart city development, the building sector, the energy sector, mobility, hydrogen as a potential technology for urban use cases, circular economy, and so on. You can already register at the website Smart City Summit AT. We run a matchmaking platform. You will find all the speakers there. You can meet them in advance, during the event, and after that. And I would be very glad if I could welcome some of you on this occasion. And if you have any questions on the role of sustainability in the activities of Vienna Business Agency, please don't hesitate to contact me and my colleagues. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lucas. This was truly inspiring, and I'll actually take it from back. When we finish our chat and our Q&A session here, I would like to invite you to share this the invitations in the chat so that our participants can actually see it and probably join if they missed it somehow. I have quite some questions for you. And I'm going to start with the first one that just popped to my head, which I think that is interesting, especially when it comes to the work of Vienna Business Agency. I would say that in your work, this is just my assumption, you certainly connect with the other cities. Which are the cities or which are the practices that you are looking at when you're trying to find a good practice example and try to organize your work?
Yeah, we have a lot of international contacts. My team, when it comes to smart city technologies, we have always looked at Barcelona, we have looked at London and Berlin. Mm-hmm. We were part of an international consortium called Deep Demo, which comprised more than 20 cities working on climate neutrality. There were cities like Milan, Madrid, but also Sofia is a frequent partner of ours. Our colleagues from the startup departments, they are part of different startup alliances that are more global in scope. Including New York and San Francisco, but of course Berlin, London as well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I think that was interesting to share here, especially to inspire the participants and then the next part of the keynotes. And actually, I'm gonna then just have one more for you, and then give the floor to open the floor for the second two keynotes. Just to round this first part with both Mr. Madreiter and you, I think that circularity seems to be a very obvious solution for many challenges. And we've been talking about it. How come that circular solutions are not that present still? Why do you think that this is happening?
Well, that's a very good question. I think from a technical standpoint, there are quite a lot of approaches, but what is still probably missing is very good business models for circular economy approaches. We're working on that. There have been some good business cases, like for example, the company Refurbed is probably well known for you. They resell and upgrade used electronics products and have a huge platform right now. I think it's basically it's more the market than the technological approach. In the field of the built environment, it's very difficult to get components that have been considered as waste back into circulation, make them like products again. And there are a lot of regulations and standards still missing that kind of could form a new market which is secure for companies to invest in and to set up a company and work there. So regulation is lagging behind, standards are lagging behind, and thus it's hard to develop economically viable business models. We're working on that.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you very much, and thank you for leaving it actually on a positive note. We are again very thankful for your input and for the support that we are having from Vienna Business Agency. I invite you to stay with us and to tune in into the other session and to listen what are we going to share here. thanks once again.
Thank you.
And actually, what is interesting and what we talked about now is that we mentioned circular solutions as a solution for many challenges that we are facing. But what are we going to now do is we're gonna change the perspective a little bit, and we are going to talk about the potential of nature-based solutions when it comes to building smart cities, building sustainable cities. And in order to do that, I will invite Mr. Geoffroy Zere from University of Lorraine to share the story with us in the next 15 minutes on how the cities can learn from nature. Geoffroy, welcome. Thank you. Thank you for joining. We are happy to listen to you next 15 minutes. I will just gladly give you the floor.
Yes, thank you very much. Good morning to everyone. That's my great pleasure to be with you. Also, I wanted first to thank the two first speakers. Indeed, they were very inspiring, and I would say that the example of Vienna is very impressive. Can you see my screen in presentation mode?
Yes, everything good.
Yeah, so indeed, I will try to speak and to explain maybe how cities could learn from nature. And I'm doing this presentation in my own name, Professor Geoffroy Zere, but also in the name of my co-authors, Dr. Apolline Auclair, Professor Christophe Schwartz, and we are all soil scientists and soil biologists from Université de Lorraine. And we were indeed partners of the BUILD project. So to start with, a fact which is, I would say, quite well known, and that was already mentioned, is the fact that there is a never-growing urbanization. It is very clear, and if you have a look at this graph, the fact is that we knew in 2008 the number of people living in urban areas exceeded the number in red, exceeded the number of people living in rural areas. So, and the fact is that nowadays, more than half of the world's population live in urban areas. You may also have a look at this map showing that, in fact, there is now only a minority of people, of countries, pardon, that which majority of population live in rural areas. So cities are getting bigger and bigger. And I would like to mention the fact that this urban sprawl have many consequences. One of them is the continuous increase of the global artificial impervious areas. Of course, we are all aware of that, seeing the bitumen on the road, on the pavement, and so on. And just to have a quick look at this graphs from a very recent study showing this continuous increase of these impervious areas as a consequence of the urban sprawl, of the expansion of our cities. You may have a look specifically at the very rapid, fast increase in Asia. And just to illustrate this urbanization fact, you may have a look at these very nice pictures that was shot by an artist in China that I would say really illustrate how urbanization could be very fast and also the consequence on the surrounding areas, including the agricultural lands that of course, these agricultural lands are affected, are destroyed by this urbanization. And but I think that the first speaker really expressed that very well. We know that without being too pessimistic, mankind now has to face many issues as far as climate change, loss of biodiversity. So at the, let's say, a very global scale. But the fact is that if we consider now cities, and we saw that cities are expanding, are sprawling over time, of course, there are these basic needs for cities to create some economical activities, some places for people to live, leisure public services, also urban travels. But in addition to those needs, there are many environmental issues that we have to face, and these issues are really concentrated in cities. I guess that you all experienced air pollution, the contamination, for example, of soil, maybe the food dependency. You know that cities are really rely on the importation of foods from surrounding areas, but also, as I mentioned, soil seeding. We already mentioned as well urban heat islands, the fact that temperature in the inner cities are higher than the surrounding rural areas. And I could also mention natural risks such as flooding that may have huge and dramatic impact on both human lives and economical aspects. So there are many issues and they are concentrated in cities. So we have to face them and to find solutions. So maybe a part of the solution could be to take benefits from ecosystems. And I would like you I will introduce this concept of ecosystem services that are the basis of mankind. Ecosystem services could be defined as the benefits people derive from ecosystems. And there are usually three main categories of ecosystem services. The first one is provisioning services. Of course, nature ecosystems provide us some food. And just to give you a number, more than 90% of our food, of the food we are eating, come directly or indirectly from soil, because vegetables grow on soil. But nature also provides us some wood, some medicine, some energy. So there are many different aspects of this that we shall consider, including also fibers for our clothes. But there are also some regulating services, just like, for example, water filtration, infiltration, waste recycling, crop pollination, climate regulation, of course, through carbon storage and disease control. And at last, there are also some cultural services. And I mean, not only the aesthetic link, beauty of landscapes, but also the spiritual links or the personal growth that we may have with nature. And maybe earlier this morning, you went in a green space and had a jogging. So it was an ecosystem service provided by nature. So thanks to nature, we have all these services that are provided to us and that are very helpful. So just to illustrate also this and maybe the risk behind the fact that sometimes nature could not provide anymore these services. Maybe you already saw this picture, which is at the same time, so let's say, funny and dramatic. It takes place in China, and you can see that these people are basically doing pollination by hand. Why? Because maybe due to the past agricultural activities, to the contamination with pesticides, there are no more bees or insects that are capable to do pollination. So they have to do it by hand. And if they don't, this tree won't produce any fruits for the next year. So it's just to show that ecosystem can provide us some very valuable services, and if nature doesn't, I beg your pardon, we would have to do it, and it would cost some money, and maybe we couldn't simply do it. So now let's move to my third point. So I don't want to be too much technical about some ecological concepts, but just I would like to introduce some basics about links between biodiversity and ecological stability in terms of resistance and resilience. So I tried to know a sketch that could explain this simply. So let's consider an ecosystem, which would be a forest with different kind of trees, but also, of course, other organisms, living organisms. And we will have a look at this forest, the evolution of this forest over time, and considering the biodiversity, which means the number of species. Now, let's imagine that there is a drought event that happens, and let's have a look at the consequence of this drought event on the biodiversity. You can see the evolution of the number of species over time, and there are in fact 3 steps. The first one is resistance. I mean, during maybe the next week or months after the drought, because of let's say the biodiversity of this forest, but also the fact that there is some water stored into the soil, of course, the forest will resist to this drought event, and the number of species would remain constant. But then, if the drought event is too massive, too long, of course, a degradation would happen. That would be translated through a decrease, a massive decrease of the number of species over time. But then, if let's say consider that a rain event would happen and that the drought will finish, maybe a third step, a third phase could happen, which we called resilience, and that means a restoration of the number of species, of the biodiversity of these ecosystems. And in that, of course, theoretical case, you can see that at the end, after the resilience time, the number of species is almost the same that at the beginning. Now, let's compare this, let's say, diverse ecosystem with another one. So again, the same ecosystem with, let's say, a large biodiversity compared to another forest with a lower biodiversity. Lower in terms of maybe a species, tree species, but also maybe earthworms or whatever. And you can see that not only after the drought event, the resistance time is shorter, but also at the end, the resilience is not complete. Let's say that maybe because just the structure of the ecosystem was not strong enough or resilient enough, the number of species after these drought events wouldn't come back to its initial state. And that's just to show the impact and the positive influence of a high biodiversity on the stability of an ecosystem. And now to finish with this short example, let's move to a consideration of the ecosystem services provided by these 2 ecosystems. So it's again the same graph, but this time in y-axis, you will have the level of ecosystem services. So for the very diverse with a high biodiversity forest, you would have a high level of ecosystem services, such as, for example, water infiltration, carbon storage, and so on. So there is a very high level of ecosystem provided by this forest. And again, through this drought event, this level of ecosystem services would decrease over time, but then, thanks to resilience, could come back to its initial state. But again, if this forest has a, let's say, biodiversity which is less than the other one, not only the initial level of ecosystem services would be lower, but it could hardly come back to its initial state. It was just to illustrate the value of the biodiversity, both on the stability of the ecology of such ecosystems, but also its consequences on the level of ecosystem services provided. Now, let's move to my fourth and last part and come back into cities by talking about nature-based solutions, which means basically there are many definitions, but let's say solutions involving living organisms. And I would like to just show 3 examples by focusing on the fact that some nature-based solutions could be very low-tech, whereas some other could be very high-tech. And we will discuss maybe later about the complementarity between these low and high-tech solutions. Let's start with a very well-known NBS, which is urban trees. I guess you are all familiar with such very robust solution, urban trees, but maybe you didn't know that urban trees are very helpful in providing many different ecosystem services, starting with the filtering of air pollution, decrease of urban head island, protecting biodiversity, managing stormwater, but also increasing the neighborhood property values. So there are many benefits of urban trees in our cities. And let me just suggest a frame to assess these solutions. In terms of technology, of course, urban trees are a very low-tech solution, but we also discovered that they could provide a very high level of ecosystem services. Now, let's move to the second example, which are green roofs. I guess you're familiar as well with these solutions, which are basically a substrate and a vegetation on a roof. And this is very often quite beautiful. And such green roofs could also provide interesting, valuable ecosystem services involving the management of urban water, the fact that they could help to keep building cool, and they also offer an habitat for biodiversity. So let's say that green roofs are a mid-tech solutions, but we also, even if of course it's very different from urban trees, but they may offer a rather lower level of ecosystem services compared to green roof. And to finish with, let me introduce you to urban farms. This is a very trendy solution, which is quite nice, as you may consider producing some food in cities, involving sometimes very high-tech solutions, indoor, for example. And of course, there are many benefits of urban farms, such as, for example, reclaiming direct building, decreasing the transportation of foods. But in fact, you basically produce some food. And of course, this is not a global frame to assess the NBS, but in that case, we may say that urban farms might be high-tech, but providing a limited number of ecosystem services. Of course, this is not general at all. You may have a very high-tech solution that could provide high level of ecosystem services, but it was just to show that we may also consider low-tech solutions at the same time as a high-tech solution. So to conclude, so as we saw together, mankind is really facing multiple environmental issues. And the fact is that they are now concentrated in our cities, as the previous speakers mentioned. So we have to find some solutions to deal with this increasing urban areas surfaces and the environmental issues that are linked. Second point is that ecosystems, and when I mean ecosystems, I mean both natural ecosystems, but also artificial ecosystems, through their functioning, are capable to provide multiple ecosystem services that lead to benefits for us. Then, the more diverse our ecosystems, and again, I mean both natural ecosystems, just like a forest, but also urban ecosystems. And when I mean diverse, I mean both biodiversity of organisms, but also diverse in terms of solutions. The more diverse our ecosystem, the more adaptable and resistant and resilient they could be to global changes. And to finish with, I would say that my true, I really do believe that urban areas need a wide and diverse range of nature-based solutions, from very low tech, but also including high-tech solutions. And we have to find some complementarities between all these solutions and between all our skills. And I guess that we have many different skills in order to develop these smart and sustainable cities. Thanks a lot for listening.
Thanks a lot, Shafra. This was also really interesting and inspiring, and I'm not exaggerating when I'm saying this. I'm really enjoying my position. I think that I'm privileged to listen to every single moment of this event. What I would do now is rather be selfish and ask you all the questions that I wrote down, but I can't, because we have quite some in the Q&A session. So if you agree, I'll run question by question that I see here that are screened. First of all, I would like to thank our participants for posing the questions. And now the most interesting part comes when I actually have to pronounce the name of our participants posing the question. So I would say that the first one is coming from Just Herebout. 100% sure that I did not pull this right. However, I'm very thankful for the question. And the question is, first of all, you are being thanked for your interesting presentation. And we are wondering here, how would you reply to the critique on ecosystem services that the concept still considers nature as exploitable service for humans rather than the repositioning the human as an important part of the ecosystem, meaning that there is a double dependency. This is
thanks a lot for this very interesting question. And so without going into scientific debates, I would say that what the participant mentioned is absolutely true. There are many limits of this concept, but the fact is that I would say that this is a really relevant way to communicate with different stakeholders. I would say it's very interesting through this concept that you could link scientists with stakeholders in cities, and they could communicate on the same basis. I mean, what benefits can we take from ecosystems? And so this is the first part of the answer. And the second part is that I would say that there are more benefits for us to consider ecosystem services than limits. But of course, as scientists and also as free thinkers, we have to be aware of these limits.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Then the second one would be, and I'm gonna again read it out loud. How can these ecosystem services be considered in the current financialized economic systems? If I cut down a tree and I sell the wood, it's easy for me to capture the economic value. What incentive then does a person have to leave the tree standing so that it generates ecosystem service value that we harvest as a society, but not necessarily individually?
Yeah, again, thanks for the nice question. I would say that I'm not an economist, so I know that I have many colleagues that are truly interested in that kind of question. But I would say for sure, there are, with the example of a tree, of course, even if you cut the tree and that you use the wood to, let's say, to construct a house, you could, apart from the economical value, you could keep the carbon storage service fully, or not fully, or at least you could still keep a part of these ecosystem services. But some won't anymore, as I said, the air filtration, the air pollution filtration. But the fact is that some in economy, you may try to monetize these ecosystem services, but the fact is that if you compare for example, the value of a flat and the same surface of a forest, the cost would be very different. So, but to be honest, I'm not an expert on this specific question.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. I hope we answered your question. Let's move to one question that is actually considered as a bit specific, as our participant Tagnik is saying, and he is asking: are brown fields or open fields in the cities contributing significantly to the urban overheating as compared to the artificialized?
Yeah, it's easy to pronounce.
That was hard. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for the question. The funny thing is that in my research team, we're deeply interested in industrial brownfields and brownfields in cities. And the fact is that they could provide many ecosystem services, especially in terms of habitat for biodiversity. Maybe not a very high biodiversity, but let's say a rare biodiversity, because some specific species could find habitats in these places that are more or less left over. Considering the overeating, I would say that it depends, of course, on the level of vegetation of these brownfields or open fields, but I would say that their contribution could be positive if, of course, again, if you if you unseal the soil, because sealed soil are probably the worst for this overeating and urban entitlement process.
Thank you, Geoffroy. Thanks.
You're welcome.
I think that this was great. There are quite some, not quite, but there are some questions that I'm going to ask our tech team to forward to you, and you can feel free to reply in the chat.
I will.
Yeah, because I think thanks a lot.
Okay, see you. Bye.
Yeah, and seeing you in the next day and a half. And today's key notes will be closed, but by our lovely and dear colleague Chiara Farinea, the head of the European projects at IAC Barcelona. And what is Chiara going to do now is actually pick up where we left with Geoffroy. We're going to talk a little bit more on the examples of nature-based solutions. We're going to dive into this a bit more, because this is, as we said, for the circular economy solutions, it's obvious, it's out there, but somehow we don't see that many examples. We are not tackling this probably in the level that we would like to. Chiara, welcome. We are very happy to welcome you here. I'm giving you the floor for your 15 minutes, and we see each other and talk into the Q&A session. Welcome once again, and the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot, Daniela. Yes, I will start where Geoffroy left, and so I'm going to share my screen. Voila. Yes, so I'm going to speak about hybridizing built environments and living systems, and of course it's not working. I cannot go to the next slide. Okay.
Yeah.
So yes, as anticipated, I'm going to speak also about ecosystem services, but through some practical examples of projects that we have developed here at IAC. So nature-based solutions, as said, are living systems that are providing cities with multiple ecosystem services. And yeah, Geoffroy was using my same reference with regards to the ecosystem services, that is the Millennium Ecosystem Assessment, which divides, he was speaking about provisioning. I was splitting the provisioning into parts, which is life support, so the soil formation and oxygen production, the procurement, production of food, drinking water, raw materials or fuel, regulation, climate control, microclimate, tidal waste, water purification and pollination. And then we have the cultural values, aesthetic, educational, recreational to enjoy our cities. So the topic of my presentation is how can digital technologies support us to integrate living systems into urban environments, providing the cities with multiple ecosystem services. And I'm going to deal with this issue through some examples of projects that we have developed here at IAC. Wait, voila. So the first project I would like to share with you is named Foodvoltaic, and the ecosystem services that is tackling are food and energy production, water saving, flood mitigation, and oxygen production. So what we try to do is to work with nature-based solutions in a way that we can provide the more as possible ecosystem services, and we use digital technologies to create a sort of passive environment where the nature-based solutions can grow in a city, because the cities are hostile environments for nature. Cities has been constructed maybe for humans and protect them from nature. So it's a sort of renaturalization of cities, but in order to renaturalize our cities, we need to create an environment that is friendly to nature, to have the possibility to host nature again in the city. So we know that city, for example, has heat island effect. And so during summer, the temperature are quite high and are not the right temperatures for nature to grow. So what we try to do is to create new environments to to host nature and to provide more ecosystem services as possible. So speaking specifically about this example, in this case, we have a tile for renaturalization of horizontal and vertical surfaces in the city. This tile is composed by a part, a sort of box, where we host the soil. And this box is provided with a biophotovoltaic system. The biophotovoltaic system is a system that is composed by an anode and a cathode that is collecting the energy that is produced by the bacteria that are living near to the roots of the plants. So these bacteria are emitting small quantities of energy, and it is possible to collect this energy through this system. They are not providing that much energy as a classical photovoltaic panel. However, these small quantities of energies can be used to power, for example, LEDs or a system of sensors to monitor these structures or the irrigation system, so that we have our system embedded in the city that is self-sufficient. So in this case, as told, we have this system to collect the energy, and the upper part of our tile is composed by a surface that is designed through parametric programs, and this surface is designed to collect the water. So a parametric program is a program where, changing some parameters, we can change the design. And in this case, we introduce the parameters of a specific location. In this case, we are introducing parameters regarding the quantity of rain. So changing the quantity of rain, we can change the upper surface in order to organize in the best way as possible the collection of the water to bring it towards the plants. Moreover, this upper surface is protecting the soil from evaporation during summer. We have some holes, of course, to have a controlled evaporation, and in this way we are going to save the water. With regards to the flood mitigation, we are putting in the city new porous material, which is the soil, which is helping during heavy rain to collect the rain and to avoid the flood in the city. So this is the project. Here are some drawings. Here we are using these machines that you can see in the left part, which are CNC machines. These are numerical control machines that allows us to create prototypes of the projects, fast prototypes, and also to customize. So we can have every tile different with the other. We are not in the framework of a series production, but of a customized production for the city. In this case, we were having also some sensors, as you can see, and then up where the customers, the users can see the values that are collected by the sensors. Here you can see the prototype, the real prototype of tile, and here a visualization of the tile implemented in the city. So the second project that I would like to show you is the Cyber Green Voltaic. It works on the same ecosystem services, so food and energy production, flood mitigation, oxygen production, but this is optimized for vertical construction. So in this case, we are using another kind of technology, which is the 3D printing. At IAC, we are developing some research about large-scale 3D printing. So this is a wall 3D printed in 3 days in Construmat, which is a fair here in Barcelona some years ago. And from this project, we thought, why to not implement in this wall the nature-based solutions with all the ecosystem services that we can provide. So we were developing this project, which is a vertical wall that is 3D printed that hosts the nature-based solutions as sensors as the previous project, and has also implemented the biophotovoltaic system to collect the energy. The next project that I would like to speak about. It's a project that works for phytodepurration. So the main ecosystem service is phytodepurration. So this is depuration of gray water from houses with energy again, and also oxygen production. So in this case, we were organizing a different substrate, which is not anymore soil, the standard soil, but is a sort of gravel with some other technical layers. And we were organizing a system to phytodepurate the water in horizontal surfaces. And another project that it's working exactly with the same logic is Biomoon, which is organized for facades. So in this case, we have a system that is a cascade water system. We are collecting the gray water from the house or the building and to phytodepurate it through this cascade system. And at the same time, we are also producing energy to power the irrigation system to bring the water up and also to power the sensors. So here you can see a visualization of the system implemented at the scale of a building. And with regards to this last project, we were developing during the last years a research about food production, in this case mushrooms, and also construction materials production. So when the mushrooms, and here we are using oyster mushrooms, are growing, so the entire process functions that there are some spores of which is called myceliums, which is mixed with a substrate that normally is straw. In the interior of this tile. The mushroom needs 3 weeks to grow, and after 3 weeks they start to fruit. Then we can cut them, eat the part that is the fruiting part, and the interior part we have a construction material like a brick that can be used for construction. In this way, we are trying to use all the parts of the nature and all the ecosystem services that can be provided. So we have been developing different kinds. The external part is customized to create an ideal temperature for the mushroom to grow. Here we have, in this case, a sort of a visualization of a pavilion. We were doing about this a workshop with students. Here you can see all the students producing the prototypes, the first prototype of the project. Here it had an external part where we were growing plants and an internal part where we were growing mushrooms. And here a bigger prototype of a facade system that is working exactly with the same system. In the external part, we were simulating a trunk of a tree to create an environment that is similar to a forest environment where the mushroom can grow. So here you can see what is produced internally, this sort of brick that is produced with the roots of the mushroom and the straw. Here are some more drawings, some more pictures, a visualization. This is a very flexible system. I will not go through these projects. And the very last project that I would like to show you is a system, is a support to take decisions. So in this case, we can have the nature-based solutions on the left side of this app, and the user, which is a citizen, can choose them and see the impact of the solutions that are chosen. So in this case, we have a catalog of nature-based solutions. The citizens that are involved in a participatory process choosing the solutions can bring these solutions, visualize in the upper part an impact, visualize their neighborhood. And here we have some pictures of participatory processes. I wanted just to close my lecture with this project to say that we can co-design together the city and choose the nature-based solutions that we want together through some technical devices. And I would like to leave you with this question, that is, can we build the city of the future basing them on nature-based dynamics? Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Chiara. Thanks a lot. I knew that this is going to be inspiring. And then, just relating to the last question that you posed, I'm gonna take it from there and ask you a very straight one. How does your ideal city look like? I'm super interested to know that. You're in the field, yeah, you are very much in the field. I would really like to hear the vision of that ideal city.
I was trying to introduce our ideal city with some images. We try to visualize how this city can look like. It's a city that is biologically infused. So we try to use all the surfaces of the city that now are creating, like I was mentioning, heat island effect, for example, to renaturalize them. And we are trying, as said, to create a sort of passing environment to bring again the nature to the city and to host the nature. So our ideal city is a city that is changing its morphology and its materials in order to bring nature and to create an environment that it also looks more natural, in the sense, for example, in my last project, we were simulating a sort of forest as an external layer of the building. This because the forest is the place where the mushroom grows. So we try to simulate through the materials the conditions to host again nature in the city. So our city is like looking like more natural also in the materials, but not as an aesthetic need, but for a need that is related to create a microclimate, an environment. So it's not an aesthetical issue, it's more an issue of creating an environment.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you a lot. A quick one adding to that before I address the question from the Q&A. How much educational policies in Europe are following the trends or the needs of the nature-based solutions, in your opinion?
Let's say that Europe is incentivizing the creation of new innovative education. So, for example, our BIL project, it's a very good example. Europe is launching several programs in which is funding innovative educational models that should be tested and applied. So I would say that there is an effort to innovate in education, and an effort to finance, to gather innovative models and to implement them. In our case, the BILD project is bringing together students from biology and agronomy, students from design and architecture, and students from business. Is bringing them together, is creating transdisciplinary education, and trying to set up a common language and a common environment where they can develop projects and marketable projects together. Europe is really fostering through this program transdisciplinarity. So transdisciplinarity can be applied to different fields, in our case to nature-based solutions. So I would say that there is a call for action, and then there will be for the next programs also a stronger call for actions, because they, as far as I know, they will be based on the Green Deal. So and the nature-based solution will have a spotlight in the Green Deal.
Chiara, since we are close to our lunch break, I'm gonna ask you the last question that came in our chat, and then I'm gonna invite you to follow up on the two remaining ones via chat. And the last question is actually related to the project that you shared with us. We have a question from our participant, Joost. I think that I'm again mispronouncing the name, but I'm hoping I'm not. So the question is, I was wondering what's the lifespan of the mushroom tile? I'm sorry.
We were creating different kind of mushroom tile, and we tried to adapt to the conditions, to the specific conditions of a city. So as there are different environmental conditions in terms of rain, in terms of solar radiation, we try to apply the mushroom tile for that specific context in order to have a more durable as possible. But it is supposed to be let's say a normal lifespan that is between 30 or 50 years as every building part.
Okay, thank you a lot. I will forward you the remaining questions, and thanks a lot, Chiara, for this part and for inspiring us before we go on a lunch break.